Life is a waterfall, we're one in the river and one again during the fall. Swimming through the void, we hear the word, we free ourselves and we find it all. Cause we are the ones that want to play, always love to go and we always get to stay. And we are the ones that need not choose, always want to play but you never have to lose. Angels in the sky, when you free your mind, you free your life. Life is a waterfall, we drink from the river, then we turn around and create our thoughts. Swimming through the void, we hear the word, we free ourselves and we find it all. Cause we are the ones that love to play, always love to go and we always get to stay. And we are the ones that need not choose, always get to play but you never have to lose. Angels in the sky, when you free your mind, you free your life. Angels so up high, when you free your mind's eternal prize. Angels in the sky, when you free your mind, you free your life. Angels in the sky, when you free your mind, you free your life. Angels so up high, when you free your mind's eternal prize. Ah, ah, ah,
Hello and welcome to today's Sunday service. Today we will begin with a meditation on your inner light and your true self. Please take a moment to find a comfortable position for your meditation. Relax into your space, close your eyes, and just connect to your breath as you are ready to. This is your moment, your space to be still and go slow. Notice the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. You can make the choice to let go of any thoughts about today or tomorrow or yesterday. Imagine the volume of your mind turning down and let yourself continue to enjoy the space of now. To just breathe and to just be. Notice that part of you, or all of you, It's becoming very still here. Lean into this inner stillness in your heart. As you do so, you can imagine your inner self walking through a tunnel and emerging onto the other side to discover a beautiful, bright, heavenly light within. Take a moment to relax into the awe and wonder of it. Explore the beautiful light, get to know it. Notice the details, intricacies, shades and gradients of color. Notice the light's patterns and movements and intelligence. Notice that this light is you. Isn't it wonderful to explore the light in which God created you? Notice that your light is holy. No one moves quite like you. In all the vast possibility of creation, God said, I want this one. And his desire became you. Now I invite you to fully embrace and receive your inner light, to love the light that is you. Give and receive all the love you desire as you embrace your inner light. You can trust that your light is perfect and wonderful and beautiful. And let your light receive everything it needs to shine. As you gently and fully integrate with your true inner light, I invite you to bring your awareness back into this physical moment when you're ready. Notice how strong you feel after embracing your inner light, your true self, the holy creation that is you. And just let yourself fully relax as you prepare to receive the rest of today's Sunday service.
Hi, Church of Union. So I'm here to do a reading, and the deck that I'm going to be using today is Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck by Amanda Lovelace. And it also makes sense using this deck because this journey is all about believing in yourself, having faith in your union, and just keep moving forward on this path with immense faith, and gratitude. So let's say what is the first card that we have? And the first card is villain. You can always rewrite the story. So, what I'm feeling with the energy of this card is that it is quite likely that a lot of you, or probably even in the collective energy, what we could be moving through is the past traumas or even past situations, our past upsets, especially coming to the surface from our childhood, or probably something that we are holding on to too tightly, that we are not moving on. And sometimes it's about moving on when we are able to forgive ourselves from what has really happened. But the bigger question is that we are keeping ourselves stuck into this question that why it happened, and that is something that takes a lot of our energy. And what I'm also feeling that this card is saying, like, if we look in this card, what this girl is doing, like holding on to this stone and trying to, break the shell. So probably it's about, as Shelia also mentions, that sometimes you can, while you are healing, you can give yourself a new story. You can go back into the past and you can rewrite the story. So things that didn't align with you, things that happened, you attracted out of unawareness. Now is the time for you to rewrite those stories and give yourself a new life that you desire, that you deserve, that you are worthy of, that aligns you with your union, that aligns you with union consciousness. The second card that we have here is gray, that says endings are inevitable. So what I am sensing here is, like, given the first card also, to rewrite the story. So when you rewrite the story, that means you are saying no to what has happened in the past, and that is how the traumas, the upsets, and everything that are no longer serving us will come to end. That ending is inevitable. And even if I look at this card, this girl is, looking at this on the clouds, and there's a boat. So probably this is more towards looking towards the new beginning, being hopeful about what's more to come. And it's just that also that we might need to go through the process. This journey is a process, it's a journey. More than you looking at and consciously focusing on the destination, it's also about the journey. And sometimes the journey can be rocky, and to be able to move through that, it's really necessary for you to allow yourself to upheave, follow the process, feel all your feelings. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. Like, it of course matters how you're feeling, but what I'm meaning to say here is that all your emotions are important. So you may not be feeling extremely good, you may have your own cycles of moving through grief, sorrow, identity crisis, whatnot. But in the end, it does not matter, because these are the feelings and you are not defined by your feelings. You are defined as a divine child of God. So, as you move through these feelings, you are definitely going to arrive more into peace, and you will be able to excel in your own magic, in your own journey. And the third card that we have here is Universe, and that says we are all just stardust. So, what I'm also feeling like, it's like re capturing the essence of the entire reading, that we all are divine children of God, and the experiences that we have had in the past, the feelings that we are moving through right now, this is just a part of the process where we are purifying ourselves, we are becoming our higher self, we are becoming the best version of ourselves. So instead of giving up hope, we really need to have faith in God, in ourselves, in the journey that we are truly blessed with, even in order to identify that, yeah, we are twin flames, in order to even identify that who we are in our truest essence. So it is really a good thing. So don't lose faith, believe in yourself. And the last card that we have here is expectations, and that says don't seek anyone's approval because you are enough, you are worthy, you are perfect just the way you are created. And even if you look at this girl just enjoying her own time, and there is like this fairy here sitting on her knee, if you can just probably look at this. So, probably, God is there with her, the universal powers are with her. So, instead of looking outside, seeking that validation, seeking the approval or anything, you know that you are enough and you are extremely and abundantly supported on this journey. So, thank you very much. Namaste.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Church of Union Sunday service. My name is Gabriel, and I have the privilege of introducing Adam and Brianne's sermon on exploring neurodiversity. This is something that I think the entire community is really looking at and exploring right now. And it's something that's really close to my heart as well. And in my own experience, I've been recently exploring neurodiversity as well. I've known for a long time that I probably had ADHD, and my symptoms have definitely varied and gotten worse and better over the years as I've done different things, but I never really took the time to explore that in depth. And as I've gone further into my journey and my self-exploration, I've found that, in my own way that I've maybe ADHD, have autism and ADHD. And, of course, it's always appropriate to have it looked at by a professional and have that really, evaluated if that's something that resonates with you, whether it's, HSP, like a highly sensitive person, OCD, ADHD, autism, or a combination. It's always important to have that, evaluated. But as Adam and Brienne go into in their sermon, it's really important in your self-discovery as you get to know yourself on your spiritual journey, your ascension journey, that you get to know yourself in these ways so that you can better, first of all, like learn self-acceptance, and so that you can really learn to give yourself what you need. And I know that for me, I felt like I was probably pushing it off for a really long time of like just trying to be normal and masking and like, no, 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 I'm not that bad. Like using other examples of people with ADHD or people with autism and saying, well, that doesn't really resonate with me. But as I've gone through it on my journey, like I've definitely found that, it really is what they say, like that spectrum, right? Of, you are uh, unique in your needs, and maybe you meet some criteria of symptoms, but you have to find the needs, and the support that caters to you. And as someone who is that neurodivergent, if that is who what resonates with you, and if that is what you're experiencing in your life, the more you can provide yourself that support, the more you're going to actually be able to thrive. Those needs, you know, must be met. And the more that I'm able to do that, um, the better off I am. And the more I've been able to grow and come into that self-acceptance. And so Adam and Brienne do a really wonderful job, like walking through the different layers of this. And I think you're really in for a treat as you go through this. I feel so much more relief in my life having explored this and continuing to explore and learn about myself. Of course, it's always a deeper journey of self-discovery, and I think this is just the latest, the latest in what will be to come of learning how to more deeply love and accept myself, and come into who I truly am and who God created me to be. And we find that we need so much support, and it's okay to have those needs and provide them for yourself so that you can grow and thrive in the way that God is calling you. So Adam and Brienne again have a wonderful sermon ahead. And if you enjoy this sermon, if it resonates with you and you like what we're doing here at the Church of Union, I encourage you to tithe so that we can continue to put out these messages and reach more people and help them come into their journey of self-discovery and their love with God. And so you can do that at unionism.org and enjoy the sermon, and I will see you afterwards. Now, here's Adam and Brienne.
Hello, we're Adam and Brienne. We'll be your ministers of union for this Sunday service. We'll be talking about exploring neurodiversity today and everything that comes with it. Probably not everything, because it's just a sermon. We might do another later on, but we'll start with this, exploring. And we'll see where it's going to get us. But first, we'll start with our opening alms and our opening prayer. So follow along in your heart or out loud. I am the only child of God, forever part of Him. I am created by Him in perfection, and there I always remain. My mind is my sanctuary where I keep His holy creation sacred. I will only allow in His voice. I will only accept His word.
Today I will hear the word of God. I surrender myself to His teachings through His divine channel. I will honor what He has spoken and accept it as His will. I will be obedient to His word, for this is my salvation. In Christ's name, Amen. Welcome back.
Back. So, neurodivergence. That encompasses autism, ADHD, OCD, Tourette syndrome, and a whole bunch of other things. It's a whole spectrum of things. And when we talk about neurotypicals, it is something that's deemed by Western medicine in people that have a brain that functions in a typical or normal way. So there's a lot of, words here, right? But so neurodivergence is what we're going to dive into today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is basically when you have a brain that kind of like functions on a different operating system. It's nothing like wrong with it in that sense. It's like just a different operating system. As if you're into that kind of stuff, you probably understand it a bit better. But we can see it in that way, right? I think that's a good explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just functions a bit differently, and it's just figuring out how it functions for you, if that is something that you're experiencing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But in a lot of cases, if you're experiencing some of these symptoms, or you're often trying to function on a different operating system that is not for you, and that can create all sorts of issues.
Right, like a neurodiverse trying to be like a neurotypical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, we're gonna come into like masking and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of issues that comes into this. So yeah, dive in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where to go next? Do you want to share a bit?
Maybe we should just start sharing about our own personal exploration with this.
Sure.
We Yeah, we can. It's something, well, I'll share for my personal and then you can share yours. But we were exploring in ADHD, and that is autism and ADHD together. And the reason being is, and yes, we're working our way through, what I mean by that is we're working our way through the professional evaluation with that, working the process here. And the reason being is that, as a child growing up, I often felt like there was something different about me. I felt like the way that I related to the world, the way that I connected with others, it was a bit, well, I perceived it as odd. That's kind of the communication that I received back from my reality is it's a bit odd in the way that you connect, you act, and just things you do, your being. And and I also had seizures as a little girl, and I was tested for learning disabilities and whatnot, and there was never really anything discovered or found. And so, in my, I struggled with moving through school, and they would just put me through, I guess it's called like summer school. It's like an in between, and then that would support me in moving forward into the next grade. And, I kind of like learned that through this process, I kind of like learned how to be and how to function, as I become more aware. I'm like, okay, this is what's acceptable and this is what's not. And I started to do only the things that were deemed acceptable. That way that I could be accepted and, function in my reality. But I always carried with me this idea of like shame and guilt of feeling like, but this is something different. Like I don't know what it is, but there's something. And also too, something else that me and Adam have talked about a lot as well. And I used to use this term even before I found the teachings of union and I was working through the process of healing and just coming into my own self, is that I always, wherever I went, I was a chameleon. I would blend into my reality. I'm like, okay, I'm going over here, and so I got to be this person. And now I'm coming over here, so I'm going to be this person. And through that process, they call it masking. I essentially lost myself to where I would come to the place of, oh gosh, I don't even know who I am. And there was also like sensory issues. I remember I have very heightened sensitivity, like my senses and just my body in general. And I remember like friends would make comments and things like that, like you're very particular, or like, I could smell things really easily that no one else could smell. And they're like, that's weird. And I'm like, I don't know. There was just all these peculiar things that I experienced that no one around me really seemed to be experiencing. But I want to give you a moment too to I could really like keep going on with it, but
Well,
you share
if
your
you
experience too.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I had similar things, right? I didn't
Yeah.
have seizure exactly, but
Mm.
instead of kind of like going so deeply into the childhood experiences, I
Yeah.
wanted to like share that I was like roughly, I don't know, 18 years ago diagnosed with ADHD. But my experience with that was like, okay, what am I doing with this? Like, I don't want that. So I just put it on a shelf and I'm like, this is I didn't know what to do with that. Like, I don't know. I tried some medication, but it's like I had so many like what do you call it?
No, like side
Side
effects.
effects, so I couldn't
Yeah.
like continue, and it wasn't like followed up much and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, I just put it on a shelf, and I was just like, okay, I don't want to deal with that basically. And I think like that had like a lot of different things like I was working through within myself, right? But part of it is like, okay, we have a son that has autism, right? He has
Hmm.
ADHD as well and some other spiciness, you know. So, you can think like, well, why didn't you see this in yourself at that time, right? But it's like he's like a high support needs individual compared to us in a sense, right?
Right. Yeah.
And also he's I don't what could you say, low masking.
Very low man. He's very
Very.
much
Oh
himself.
yeah, you
Hmm.
could everyone, at the store he's like, stimming all over the
Hmm.
place. He's just like letting loose, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think with these things, and also like I had a lot of shame, and I didn't want to be like he had all these things, and I didn't want to be seen as the parent like having issues. So like I don't know, I had a lot of shame basically with. So I was just like putting this on a shelf. I don't even see this. So I and kind of like looking back now as well, I kind of like looking back at kind of like the things that I was going through at that time and kind of like symptoms I was displaying and things like that. It's like, wow, so many things overlooked, right? And I wanted to like discuss a little bit about how also like ADHD can overshadow autism symptoms in people when it's not in check, because that might also be an issue for some people, right? Like, because ADHD is often a bit more loud. It's just how it is. Like the symptoms are a bit more disorganized, or however you want to put it, right? It's going to be different in a lot of people, but sensory issues become more internalized, and there can be like social confusion. Why am I feeling these things that I'm feeling? And especially if you're feeling shame, you're gonna just be like constantly asking yourself, I should be, why am I feeling this way? I should be feeling differently. I should be feeling like these people, like putting yourself in these different boxes, right? And also autism symptoms can be masked by coping strategies, right? Like, well, I'm following these rules, right? Like, and all these people are doing that, so I'm gonna be doing this, right? Like, and with ADHD and autism, you have a lot of overlapping symptoms, right? Sensory sensitivities, emotional regulation difficulties, like a lot of things overlap there. So, and I think sometimes from what I've seen, it's kind of like if you get your ADHD in check, or maybe you mask less, or you maybe become medicated, like your autistic symptoms come more to the forefront, or you get more aware of it. So I think these things are very interesting to look at, and yeah, I don't know. These are very interesting things to see, like how they work together. These
Right.
things, like this is not for everyone, right? Not everyone is like both, right? But I think it's just interesting to see how these things work together, and like masking, because that's you can mask with ADHD with just that, or you can mask with any type of thing, right? Like in the neurodiverse, you know, land of things. So I think it's just interesting to look at. We can kind of like dive deeper into that too, unless you wanted to like go in more in depth of like the personal experiences here.
Yeah, I mean, we can interchange, just go with
Sure.
the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talked a lot about masking, and that's a big component of it, because especially like if you're late diagnosed, or you come to know later in life, you're going to look back and be like, wow, who have I been all along? And I was listening to this podcast, and the guy was talking about, it's about autism, but he was talking about how we develop coping mechanisms. And in those coping mechanisms, it helps you interact with your reality and live, like a normal life. And so when you start to come to this inner realization, and you start to support yourself, you begin to let go of those masks. And our gurus, Jeff and Shaleia was sharing recently that for her, in releasing the mask, it was is essentially, the way she described it is like working your way through all of the wires in your mind, and finding out, okay, this wire is a wire that I use to function in my reality, or this wire is a wire that is actually me. And all of those are all jumbled up together, and you've got to sift through them one by one. So, like the mask, it just doesn't fall off because you've been operating one way, and you've got to transition into, you got to support yourself into your way of being. And that requires you applying the teachings of union, loving yourself, and choosing to be yourself, and finding what works for you, and letting the rest fall away. And I really like what Jeff said too, in addition to what Shaleia said, is that you don't have to let your mask go all at once. You can take your time. And even if you find that you are neurodivergent, you don't just take the mask all off at once. You do it in a compassionate way for you. And if you're receiving some sense of safety with having that mask, well, then respect yourself and go at a pace that feels really good for you.
Yeah, it's very, very vulnerable because like you've been
Very.
living in a certain way for so long, right? So it's gonna take
Mhm.
some, you know, some steps here, some steps there to figure out like what works for you and what
Right.
is you and how you feel taking these steps.
Exactly.
Mm.
I know for me, and as I've been moving through this process, I've been learning a lot more about myself, especially through the professional evaluation, learning how I process my cognitive level. And as I've been working my process, my personal process, I've been moving in and out of a lot of doubt, acceptance, doubt, denial, acceptance, doubt, denial, acceptance. One moment I'm like, I've had this revelation. I'm like, oh my God, this all makes sense. This has been my life. This is what's been going on all along. And then, the next moment, I think in those moments, I put the mask back on and I'm like, oh no, this was not me. Like I'm who I always thought I was. And it's interesting for you, being like watching me work my way through
Yeah,
this process.
I
And
just kind of giggle a bit and I'm like, okay, you're good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you also mentioned imposter syndrome,
Yeah, I just
or
feel like that comes into the doubt because you're kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like you're kind of like in this place of like, well, is this me, right? Like you're always been like this chameleon, right? Like it's always this
Mhm.
like doubt and like what is going on, and if you're gaslighting yourself a lot, and so there can be a lot of things that goes into this. So a lot of compassion, right? A lot of self-acceptance goes into this. So it's a lot. This is a process. It's not just something that's going to be just, a day or a week, right? It's just
Mhm.
like, it's going to take a bit of time. So
Mhm.
a lot of patience here because you lived one way for so long. So it's going to take a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I feel like we should mention too what Jeff said about supporting yourself, how important that is.
it's going to come.
Oh, okay.
I have plans.
It's yeah, it's
It,
you have
it's
to
it's
yeah,
such
yeah.
it's such gold that we have to wait
It
till we
does.
have
It
walk
feels
through this.
like gold. We're
Yeah,
very passionate about this
yeah.
and just everything we've been learning and our gurus have been sharing with us. And okay, continue.
Yes, so were we complete with this topic for now? I want to make sure we kind of like
I believe so. I do want to add something. Add
mm,
something from the spiritual side. I mentioned that I was, tested for learning disabilities, and I was having seizures as a kid. I don't as an adult. Thankfully, I healed that and grew out of them. But I was reflecting on it from a spiritual
mm,
standpoint as to why did I manifest that for myself? Like, why was that happening in my childhood? And my instant thought was, when I was having those seizures, it was like an escape. Like I would lose consciousness and I was completely away from myself. And we also looked it up in what was that? What's that
well,
book called?
Louise Hay,
Louise
like
Hay.
heal
And
your body. Hmm.
yes, and it said exactly that. What my intuition was telling me is it was basically along the lines of escaping oneself and you're
And
escaping your life.
family.
Exactly. So I went into further research. I started looking at Google and things like that, and there's been studies, over a couple of the studies have said that if your child has autism and they are overloaded in their sensory issues, it can throw them into seizures. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like that's probably what was happening to me as a child, a very young child. I didn't know how to process everything that was going on in my reality, in my being, my feelings. And so I was attempting to escape.
Hmm.
And I just felt like it was very interesting because there's many different ways that we can try to escape ourselves,
Hmm.
especially if we are on the path of accepting ourselves and, through the teachings of union and identifying maybe these uncomfortable things that we didn't know about ourselves, and yeah, it's a really good place to look. And you also mentioned too acceptance.
Yeah, you have to accept yourself to even be able to look here, right? To be able to even allow yourself to explore. I think we were for a long time in a place of non-acceptance in a lot of these places, so it was hard to explore there. It was like, well, a little bit, I'm gonna explore, but then it was like, but it was kind of like hard. It's
Back
kind
in
of,
our shell.
yeah, I think we at one point we kind of could compare it to like, internalized homophobia, right? Like kind of like that
Yes.
constant like judgment towards self, right?
Exactly.
So
We're collecting all the letters over here.
oh wait, all the letters.
LGBTQ,
We're gonna take the whole alphabet here.
AUDHT. What? No.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
All right. Yeah.
All right, so let's go into like masking because this is a big one, and I think this is super important for us all. And this is going to be very interesting when everyone just starts like throwing off masks, like what's going on here? So I think like with this, I wanted to like touch a bit on like internalized sensory issues, especially like masking for so long, because like for instance, masking like stimming and masking like yeah, like any sensory issues. So, what that would look like would be like, holding it in, like enduring discomfort, like just like silently in a sense. I mean, I resonate with all of this stuff. I was just like, wow, me, and push it through overstimulation, just like, keeps going, right, all the time and kind of like you may not even like recognize that it is from like a distress from like any sensory related thing either, right? Because it's like you're not in touch or like knowing that, right? Like how would you if you're so masked, like you don't even know what's going on sensory, right? Like you just feel off, right? So and you could have like unexplained like irritability or fatigue or anxiety or even like anger or something like that, right? Shutdowns, right? Um, migraines, headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues, feeling like on edge or not right, if something feels off, right? But you can't like figure out what it is. And here where it comes in, like I should be just feeling normal. I should be like placing myself here. I should be over here. So it's constantly this like, why is it like this? Like all the questions, right? And trying to push yourself into a box. So yeah. And then if you these are the same things, for instance, if you're having if you're suppressing stimming, right? Same issues, right? If you're, for instance, if that's something that helps you release emotions or pent up energy, right? And that can probably, what is the term? In Norway, we have a really good term for this, but it can be probably really deep if you have stimming and you're really masked, because that can seem very unprofessional or disturbing to the environment or yeah, just off, weird, right? So uh maybe, if you feel into, maybe there's some way you could do that, like test it out, see like how it would feel to do something that kind of like is not so visible, right?
Yeah, like you can wiggle your toes or you can get fidget toys.
Yeah.
I know for me, I thrive on I have to move. I like to pace. I like to be moving. And I really resonated something else that Shaleia shared is activity. Having a lot of, not a lot, but like a exercise, body movement. It really helps to keep that high energy that can come with ADHD. It keeps it processing and moving. And she also mentioned too, because if you're not giving yourself some sense of outlet, I'm sorry, source of outlet, you're going to internalize that. And I think you spoke to that a little bit as well. And when you internalize it, it becomes dangerous.
Yeah, it's damaging, right?
Damaging.
It's very damaging to the system, right? It's very serious. And I think like if we take that in, right? Like, what have we been doing to ourselves and our bodies if has been our experience, right?
Yes.
So just think about how the buildup of that pent up, unexpressed, sensory, emotional energy, internally. Yeah, I had to process that. Like, wow, yeah, but that is massive. For myself personally, I was extremely sick for a long time. I had what is kind of like related to as a chronic fatigue. I don't know, they call they were thinking it was like autoimmune, right? But this was my life, right? But I've been like masking so hard for my whole life, basically, for so much of my life, and like exploring this even deeper within myself, and like, of course, ChatGPT, and going deeper here with like what we've been learning here, through what Jeff and Shaleia have been sharing, and through community posts and things like that, is like, yeah, there's I've been learning a lot about myself, and through the evaluations we've been going through,
Yeah,
right? Like,
definitely.
been learning a lot, and it's
Yeah, I want
very,
to share something here too, now that you said that.
yeah.
Is that we're being put through a lot of different tests and whatnot. And I spent 4 hours with an evaluator recently, and it was test after test after test.
Very intense, very thorough.
Very intense and thorough, for sure. And I noticed, well, she pointed it out to me, but I can't sit for long periods of time. And so I asked her if I could stand up, and then I would kind of like move my body, and we would continue with the test. And she noted that my performance, it increased immensely when I was allowed to, not allowed, but when I stood up and I would move my body while still processing the information that she was feeding me. And I was like, wow. And it was true, because when I would sit down and I would take the test, I couldn't process it correctly. But when I did stand up, things flowed a lot better. And so it was very interesting that, wow, if I just give myself the space to just stand up while I'm, processing testing information and things like that, I receive it better.
It's quite the interesting ride. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, so this is very important stuff. I feel like, yeah, so I wanted to share what Jeff had said. I feel like this is so important. So what he said was, you have specific special needs that must be met in order for your well-being to grow abundantly. But when you meet those needs, you can truly thrive.
That's pure gold.
Yeah.
And it really touched my heart, because, in working my process, if this is truly what's been going on, which I feel it is, my whole life, I've been pushing against it, not having the awareness of it. And that's led me to live a very exhausted, low energy life where I couldn't thrive. I couldn't grow in my, my wealth and abundance and prosper and thrive in my life, because I was not I didn't know. And so the educational system, the system in general, was not designed to support a neurodivergent. And so I didn't receive, nor did I support myself properly in order to thrive in life. But now, with the teachings of Union and learning about yourself and ourselves, you can do that. You can change and ensure that you are receiving the support that you need and giving yourself what you need. That way that you can have a very prosperous life.
Yeah, and again, here's where the self-acceptance comes in again. You have to accept that you have these specific special needs, right? To even like begin that process, right? And then you have to figure out what they are so you can start meeting them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do we got anything else? I feel like that was really juicy. There was a lot of very jam-packed. Was there anything that we missed at all?
We might do a part 2. To be continued.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Okay.
So we'll do our closing prayer and closing ohms. Father, I accept your word into my heart. I will honor your will in my life, and I will follow you without hesitation anywhere you ask. I know you guide me into your heart where I belong. I accept that you're everywhere and your teaching is in all things. God, I know you provide me clarity in these teachings of union that I may be forever in union with you.
I accept that you are in me as you are in my brother. I will not deny my brother your word and will share your teaching with him in any way you ask and only as you ask. For when I share my salvation with him, I fully claim my salvation and return to you with him. In Christ's name, Amen. Speaking this prayer in your heart means you have accepted that you are on the path of awakening to your true divine nature. This is what it means to be a unionist. Follow the teachings of union with God wherever you find them and purify your consciousness into perfect union with your Creator.
God bless.
Namaste.
Welcome back, and thank you, Adam and Brianne, for that wonderful sermon. We look forward to a possible part 2 there. I really loved how Adam and Brianne went through their own journeys of discovery and even reflecting as far back as childhood into seeing how neurodiversity affected them. For me, I definitely resonated with that as I've been discovering myself. I have found that, oh, there's all these things that I thought were just kind of weird, or I thought, was just a tweet, I thought was a kind of peculiar thing, or being particular, or having heightened senses. All of those things felt like, oh, that's just something about me. And I never really connected the dots to neurodiversity until I started discovering myself on this path, and this topic of neurodivergence came up to begin exploring. I really resonated with Brienne and having to move, and also having like very strong senses of like smell. And I really think that, like, just different ways of being and relating to the world that they mentioned, of just feeling like that they were different, or they didn't connect in the way that other people did. They just felt weird. And I really resonated with that experience because I had a very similar experience in my childhood of just not feeling like I quite connected. And when I would go different places, I was kind of that social chameleon that Brienne mentions of, oh, I was doing this I'm over here, so I need to be this person. I'm over here, so I need to behave that way. And as I've started taking down the mask, it's a process, but it has felt better and allowed me to express myself more freely, releasing all of that shame of trying to be normal and trying to be what maybe society expects you to be, is really freeing and allows you to properly support yourself rather than push yourself down and really damage yourself. And I really love the quote they used from Jeff of just, it's you must meet your needs in order to grow and thrive. And it's so it's so simple and yet so profound in that thought that you have to meet your needs. It's like almost common sense, but I think in from my own experience, I felt like meeting my needs meant I meet the needs that are like bare minimum, or maybe what just everybody else needed. Oh, these are what my needs are. And they just fall into this very narrow category. And no, it's like you have very specific needs and you have to meet them in order to grow and thrive. And so, um, taking that time and opportunity to really explore yourself and find out if you're neurodiverse, and not and even beyond that, if you're LGBTQ or find out what needs are for you and who you truly are beyond the normal, will help you continue to grow and thrive as you move forward on your journey. So again, thank you, Adam and Brianne, for this beautiful sermon. And if you like this sermon, I invite you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we'll have sermons like this every week. Also, I invite you to unionism.org, where you can find all our past sermons, as well as being able to tithe to help us spread the message of unionism and love to the world. We greatly appreciate that, and it helps us to continue delivering this message. I also invite you to our after church tea time in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Facebook group that will happen right after this sermon at 1 p.m. Eastern. There you'll find a panel of Unionists who are going to be discussing this sermon in greater depth and will share their experiences as well. And you can actively participate and ask questions and give your own experience. And it's a really good time, so I invite you to join us there. Again, thank you for watching and joining us. Have a good rest of your Sunday, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.